Sam Tenpenny with Tri-State Livestock News. The Fence Post and Farmer and Rancher Exchange back with more fair cattle markets daily headlines. The Washington Post reported that a dairy worker in Texas is being treated for bird flu, only the second human case in the United States, but an extremely hostile virus that has recently rampaged through dairy cows in 5 states. The patient, who has experienced eye inflammation as the only symptom, was tested for flu late last week with confirmatory testing performed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention over the weekend. The patient was told to isolate and is being treated with an antiviral drug sold under the brand name Tamiflu. The newly emerged case does not change the risk for general public, which federal officials say does remain low. A spokesman for the Texas Department of State Health Services said that the patient worked directly with sick cows at a dairy, so the virus was most likely transmitted through that close contact. The case has alarmed disease trackers monitoring for the worst case scenario being human-to-human transmission of the pathogen, and raises questions about whether this pathogen is now more easily transmitted among mammals. Texas health officials are working with other state and federal agencies to provide guidance to dairies about precautions that workers should be taking to minimize the risk of transmission from animals and encourage those who become ill to go ahead and get tested. CDC spokesman Kevin Griffith said the investigation into how widely the virus has spread is ongoing, and that at this time they are not aware of any of the individuals' close contacts have been experiencing any symptoms. This marks the first time that the highly pathogenic avian influenza has been identified in U.S. dairy cattle, and its recent emergence in the likelihood of cow-to-cow transmission does represent a worrisome change. Until now, only one human case had been identified in the United States back in 2022. The person was involved in culling poultry presumed to have been infected with H5N1 bird flu. While this individual reported fatigue for a few days as their only symptom and did recover fully, human illnesses with H5N1 bird flu have ranged from mild, such as eye infections and upper respiratory symptoms, to severe illness, such as pneumonia, that has resulted in death in other countries. Experts worry about the potential for viral evolution with several scenarios to consider. The virus could remain primarily a threat to animal health and then recede as it has in the past. It may continue to circulate among animals but not routinely infect humans, or in the worst case, it evolves to spread easily between people and becomes the next pandemic, which would have significant cost to human life, society, and the global economy. The more the virus is able to circulate in mammalian species, the greater the opportunity for the pathogen to mutate to spread more efficiently between humans. Although the H5N1 bird flu has rarely infected humans, among the cases that have been diagnosed, the fatality rate is roughly 50%. The CDC, the U.S. Agriculture Department, and the Food and Drug Administration, along with state health agencies and veterinary officials, say that they are closely monitoring for developments. The CDC said Monday that preliminary analysis has not found mutations that would make these viruses resistant to FDA-approved antiviral medications for flu, and that the United States does have a small amount of bird flu vaccine that targeted an earlier strain as part of a program to prepare for strains of influenza virus with pandemic potential. With the latest spread of bird flu, vaccine candidates are being developed and tested that are expected to match the current strain, according to an official at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. According to Southeast AgNet, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is calling on the House to follow the Senate's lead and pass a resolution against import of beef from Paraguay. It comes after the USDA decision back in November to allow beef from Paraguay, a country that until now USDA has blocked from beef imports because it must vaccinate for foot and mouth disease. USDA considers the continued need for the vaccine to mean that the disease is still in the country. NCBA Vice President of Government Affairs Ethan Lane stated, "When you have anything coming from those areas of the world that have had issues, whether it be foot and mouth disease, BSE, or whatever else, to the United States, we in the industry here take an extremely sharp eye to any kind of discussion about trade relationship in the beef supply chain with those countries." Lane confirmed that this is not a consumer threat, but a regulatory issue for the beef industry, as the United States has not had a lot of boots on the ground to inspect those facilities in country for several years now, and that it's important to ensure that the United States inspection system does not have any problems at some point down the line. According to Western Ag Network, a report compiled by economists with the United States Department of Agriculture's Office of the Chief Economist identified that California pork prices have seen a 20% hike compared to the rest of the country following the full implementation of Proposition 10, which does restrict any pork products sold in California that don't meet pen size restrictions that were established by the voter-approved measure. The U.S. Supreme Court heard an appeal by industry groups who warned that California consumers would pay more for pork as a result of the law. According to the USDA report, pork loin prices were hardest hit with a 41% increase, and bacon prices rose $1.04 per pound more than the rest of the country. The report confirmed that products not governed by the law did not see a significant price increase, and the long-term impact of the law is yet to be seen. The USDA report also found that the state's portion of national fresh pork consumption fell from 10% to below 7% the first month of full implementation. Authors of the study say they do expect an even greater decrease in consumption, although it is too soon to determine how much. The National Pork Producers Council has fought against California Prop 12 since 2018 when it was put on the state's ballot for approval, arguing, among other things, that it would increase consumer prices for pork. Along with the American Farm Bureau Federation, NPPC challenged Prop 12 in federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, and they continue to work with members of Congress on a solution to the problems created by this law. Ag Week reported that raising beef on dairy cross cattle is starting to have a significant impact on the beef market. For the past 5 to 6 years, beef on dairy cattle have become more common in the industry, and in 2024, it's expected that 3.2 million beef on dairy crosses will be entering the market. In 2026, that number is estimated to be at 5 to 6 million. This was the main topic of discussion during the I-29 Moo University on March 21st in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, considering if numbers do reach those levels, that it would make up about 15% of the fed cattle beef market. Beef breeds most used in these crossbred cattle include Angus, Charolais, Simmental, and Limousin, with Holsteins being the most commonly used dairy breed, followed by Jersey. Holstein meat is known for good marbling, but a flat loin area, and by adding the beef genetics, they are improving the meat quality by increasing growth and increasing or improving feed efficiency, while also producing a carcass that is more desirable to the beef industry, and that is according to Kansas State University Professor Emeritus Dr. Ken Odie. When making genetic selections for these crossbred cattle, producers are breeding for calving ease, direct, carcass weight, marbling, and ribeye area to ensure a high-quality product that does not receive any sort of conformational or typical dairy-type discounts at the packing plant. Darrell Peel, a livestock marketing specialist at Oklahoma State University, said that the meat from these beef on dairy calves is being marketed into more traditional beef markets, where a straight Holstein and dairy beef in the past was often kind of directed towards a narrower market segment. That's all we have for today. Tune in next week. We'll be back with more Fair Cattle Markets Daily Headlines.